Hi, welcome to the Wisdom of Your Soul. I'm Janice Mayer, your host, and I'm so glad you're back. Today I want to talk a little bit about intuition, how the soul helps us with our intuition. So a lot of my clients lately have been talking about their intuition, and I can see it at work in their lives, and I can also see when my intuition is really at its peak. So it is a spiritual gift that we all have, our ability to have great intuition. And some people are really, really gifted in intuition, and they just follow their intuition in their life. They just follow the flow of their life, and it makes your life a lot easier when you do use your intuition. So what is intuition, and how can your soul help? What is the connection? So like I said, our intuition is a spiritual gift, and our soul is our spirit. So it makes sense that, of course, our soul is guiding us and is helping us to be more intuitive. So even if we don't feel connected to our soul, we don't even resonate with these teachings, it is something that we still get guided by. It is a knowing. It's something that all of a sudden you just know that is what is happening, or what you're feeling or thinking is correct. And it's very, very strong. I know a lot of people get confused by it. They're like, well, how do I know if it's my intuition or if it's my fear? Or how do I know that it really is my intuition? And really, it feels very different. It feels very, very different than anything you generally feel. And the knowing is so strong and so powerful, you can't really miss it. And a lot of times, you're not even really thinking about it. You're just doing the thing that your intuition is guiding you to do. So if you have a very strong intuition to write a book, you just start writing your book. You know, you don't really know why. You don't know why this year you decided to, start writing. And you don't really, you're just doing it. So your intuition guided you, and maybe it was that point in your life that you have a lot to say, and what you have written just formed a beautiful book, and you became very famous. So that was your soul, your intuition guiding you. So your soul guiding you and your intuition guiding you is really not that much different. It's just that, again, we have to make room for our spiritual gifts, which includes intuition, and we have to make room for spirit in our life. And when we do that, the more we do that, the more we connect, the happier and more grounded and fulfilled we feel, because how spirit fills our lives is very positive and very uplifting and feels really, really good. So how do you connect to your intuition? Again, it's pretty simple. All we have to do is ask. You ask your soul, take a quiet moment this morning and say, I want you to guide me today. Guide me to something, a knowing, or to something that I should be doing that's good for me, or just guide me in my life today in some way. And wait for that. What happens is our thoughts take away our experiences a lot. So sometimes we miss that we are being intuitively guided because our thoughts are bogging us down. So if, say, today I'm worried about, all the things that I have to get done today, I'm not really going to be in the flow, and I'm not really going to be able to receive my intuition because it's blocked. So a lot of us have to unblock ourselves so that we can reach our soul and that we can reach our spirit. And then we can get to our intuition, and then all the other spiritual gifts that we all naturally have, whether you're naturally psychic or you're naturally mediumistic, or you have an amazing connection to the angels. Whatever your special gift is, will come out more and more the more you let go of thought and you move back into being and asking your soul, and connecting to your soul energy. The more you do that, the more you make room for that, the more you'll feel it, and then the more your gifts will come to you. So it sounds simple, but it can be a little bit difficult in the beginning. Once you kind of get the hang of it, it's not that difficult. You just have to really make a commitment to move out of your thoughts. that if you're thinking, that's blocking this other whole world for you to discover. And the challenge is to know that without knowing it before you know it. Like intuitively or, deep down inside, you might know there's something much more to you and there's something much more to life, but you haven't really been able to grasp it. So the way to do that is to move out of your thoughts so you can explore all these spiritual experiences. And you really can't take my word for it. It's something you have to prove to yourself. I could talk to people about it, but if you're not having your own experiences of intuition, of knowing, then you're not going to be that motivated to work on this. So you have to really ask Spirit, give me some experiences. Today, I'm going to really try to not bog myself down and not block my intuition and not block, my soul and my spirit. And, just let that flow to me and just kind of wait. And in the waiting, you get to just be. So if you don't think about it, if you have nothing to worry about, and if you have nothing to think about, what happens? What happens when you have nothing to worry about and you have nothing to think about? You naturally just go into being. Well, if I don't have anything to worry about anymore, if everything's all taken care of for me, what could I do? Well, then I can just enjoy this moment. Whether you're taping a YouTube video or you're writing a book or you're working or you're hanging out with great friends and laughing, you'll be more present and you'll be more in the moment because you won't be sitting there, with your friends visiting and thinking about all the things that you have to do or all the worries in your mind or all the stress that is bogging you down. So knowing that there's a spirit and a soul is really, it's very relieving because it challenges me always to move out of my thoughts, to move back into my being, and just enjoying this moment, whatever this moment is bringing to me. And when I'm in this moment, then I can feel my intuition. I can feel what comes next. I can feel what maybe I want to do today. What is going to be the best thing for me to do today? Is it writing? Is it taping this show? Is it, calling friends? You just kind of be guided to do the very next thing. When we're in our thoughts all the time and triggering ourselves with worry and with fear, there's no real avenue for our soul to speak to us. So that's really the connection, a very strong connection between our soul and our intuition. So our intuition will come in as a very strong knowing. So if you've been able to ask your soul and ask Spirit to help you be more intuitive today, you have to be very mindful of your thoughts. And anytime you start to feel a little down or you start to feel overwhelmed, you have to go back to saying to yourself, well, what is it that I'm thinking? What is it that I'm focusing on right now? And can I shelve that, just for now so that I can explore my soul and my spirit connection? That is the motivation. I'm constantly saying to myself, I'm going to shelve these thoughts. I'm going to shelve this thought. I'm not going to think about this right now. And when I do that, it's really helpful. And it's a nice way to talk to the ego, because if you are mad at the ego, or if your thoughts are coming in and you're like, oh, these thoughts again, I can't believe I'm thinking the same thing over and over, you're actually getting mad at yourself, and when you're getting mad at yourself, that's not helpful, because that is going to take you away from your soul and your spirit, because your soul isn't in anger and isn't in those lower feelings. So we really have to move out of them. So that is the challenge. That is our greatest challenge, is to keep shelving those thoughts, but to do it in a way that your ego can handle. So whatever you have to say to yourself, whether it's, I can think about this, but I know if I continue to think about this topic, whether it's a topic of money or if it's a topic of relationships, whatever the topic is of the day or the moment that is starting to trigger me, are those thoughts worth taking me away from my soul and my intuition? Is what I'm about to think about worth it? Is it worth taking my day away and maybe a couple of days away? Because now that I'm triggered, I'm worried for days. Now I can't sleep. Now I'm tired. Now I'm at risk for, getting sick or accidents because I am not really myself, and I can see how, I can spiral down in that, and I can see how my clients spiral down when they really listen to those triggering thoughts, when they really, start to take those thoughts as truth. It becomes very, very difficult to move out of those thoughts. So it's really important for us to keep shelving our thoughts. And so come up with some kind of technique for yourself to move out of your thoughts, whether it's, no, just not right now, or some people do clear, cancel, delete, which is nice. But for me, what seems to work is I'm just going to shelve this right now, and I'm just going to put this on the shelf. And that works really well for me. So give that a shot and see if that helps you move out of your thoughts so that you can just be present again. And there's nothing like being present. It's the best feeling in the world, when you're fully in the moment and you're fully enjoying wherever you are. And it's really, really very satisfying to just be in the moment. And really enjoying your life, no matter what is happening, whether you're working or you're, watching Netflix. It is very enjoyable when you're fully in the moment. Things are not enjoyable when you're half in the moment, because you're half complaining about the moment and you're half in it. So if you're working and you're, in your thoughts and I hate this job, you're not fully in the moment with your job. And if you were fully in the moment with your job and not thinking those thoughts or shelving those thoughts, so to speak, you might like your job a little bit better, because those evaluative thoughts just kill any kind of job or kill any experience. No matter what you do, our ego mind has a way to really just zap the enjoyment out of what we're doing, whether it's working or being with our friends. So we want to be on the lookout for that, where, at one moment you're having a good time and the next moment you started evaluating yourself in some shape or form and just took the whole experience of being with your friends away. You got jealous, or, somebody said something to you that was upsetting, and it just goes downhill from there. And we don't really want to live in such triggered states all the time. We want to protect ourselves from that. And the soul is our answer to that. Our soul is our beautiful spirit that gives us such beautiful feelings. One thing that you can do when trying to reach your soul is to just ask your soul to fill you up with some feelings, some feelings that is like soul feelings. The soul would never fill you up with jealousy or with fear or with deprivation feelings. That those feelings would not come from the soul. So when you're sitting with your soul and you just ask, I would just ask, what can you fill me up with today? What feelings can I feel today? And then just sit with that a moment and just see what comes to you. A lot of times you'll just start to feel, you'll feel all these great feelings. You might feel a great sense of being loved, being adored. You may feel a great sense of gratitude. The soul will fill you up with all these great feelings because that's really who you are. And the strength of those feelings are amazing. So we're all, we all try to practice gratitude, but it's a little backwards. It's hard to be grateful when you're in deprivation feelings. Whether those feelings are true or not, it doesn't matter, because you're creating a sense of deprivation. So if you feel, say you're working and you're making decent money, but all of your friends are very, very wealthy, so you always feel deprived. It's very hard for you to be grateful. When I talk to people that are in that situation, they're like, well, it's hard for me to be grateful because I see all my friends doing all these great things and I can't do them. And I feel very cheated, and I feel like, well, why do they get to have this great life and I don't? So it's hard for us to take spiritual feelings to be in feelings without connecting to our spirit. It's very hard for us to be in those good feelings when we're in our ego. So that's really the key, is to ask to go into your soul, to be filled up with these feelings, and then you can look at your life. If I look at my life through my ego, I could find a lot of things wrong with it, and I could be really upset and depressed or triggered. If I connect to my soul and look at my life, I feel an amazing abundance, like I have too much. I feel so grateful that I have what I have. And that's just the difference between me viewing my life through my ego lens and me viewing my life through my soul lens. And it's so dramatically different. So if you're feeling deprived in your life, you're not connected to your soul and you're just in your ego thoughts and feelings, and that's okay. But again, shelve them. So this way you have an opportunity to get to your intuition. And once you're in your being, your intuition becomes very, very strong, and you can feel yourself being guided, and you don't even really think about it. It's just a way of being. So with your intuition, you're not thinking, you're just doing. And the things that you're doing, generally, there's a knowing behind the things that you're doing. Like, I know right now it's time to write, or I know right now I want to call this friend, or I know there's something wrong with, my daughter and I need to take her to the hospital. There's a sense of very, very strong knowing. So a lot of times people will say, well, how can I tell what is my intuition and how can I tell what my fear is? And that's an excellent question, especially for moms who tend to be very fearful for their children. And again, the answer for me, and this is what I feel with my own intuition, is that when I was getting a message that was a true intuitive message of warning or anything like that, there was no thought that accompanied it. I was just doing it. So when my daughter was young and she was very sick, I just started packing her up and bringing her to the hospital. And my husband at the time was like, "What are you doing?" And I was just like, "I have to bring her in the hospital. She needs to go." And I just knew it. I just knew she had to go. And she had been having episodes of stopping breathing. So that to me was that was my intuition, that was me connected to my soul, and I just went. And a lot of moms will say that they just knew. So if you're thinking you're getting a message from spirit or a warning, if you're thinking about it and you're like, oh, is it or is it not, or I don't know, is this a warning? Should my daughter not be going out tonight? If you're thinking about it, then it's not. Then that's just your ego trying to scare you. And I've had plenty of practice with knowing the difference because, my ego tries to scare me all the time when it comes to my kids. So I know not to pay attention to it, that I know that everything is fine, and that if something is really, really wrong and spirit needs to get that message and that intuition message across to me, I won't even be thinking about it. I'll just be doing it. So you can rest. You don't have to worry so much. And those kind of intuitive messages of warning, are few and far between. It just doesn't happen that often because it just doesn't. But our intuition works really, really well in our lives because it keeps us in a flow. Just to know that there's the right time to do certain things. And when we follow that intuition, we're not evaluating ourselves. I think one of the biggest things I see people evaluating themselves is how they spend their day. They're constantly evaluating themselves. Oh, I didn't do enough today, or I was lazy today, or I should have went to the gym, or, just this constant bombardment of evaluations. So when you try to connect more to the soul energy to reach your intuition, it's such a relief to not live with this evaluated ego, to say, not right now, maybe later, and then you move into your being. It's like a breath of fresh air to not have somebody next to you. The ego feels like this person next to you that's constantly evaluating you to the negative. If the ego was evaluating us in a positive way, it wouldn't be so bad. But most people that I see for therapy, and even with myself, the ego is not evaluating people in a positive way. The ego is evaluating people in a very negative way. So, this is our challenge, is to really move out of this ego thinking and back into our soul and back into our spiritual gifts, which give us the gift of intuition and the gift of flow and the gift of these beautiful feelings that when we do live in, we feel so much better. So take a deep breath right now and practice it. Just take a deep breath and ask your soul right now to fill you up with a feeling. And just see what you get. And ask for that feeling to be your guide today. So what is it that you get today? And you really have to wait for the feeling. You just have to wait for the soul to fill you up. And then you'll start to feel something. And then you might hear something, or you might see a word. So as I was asking, I start to feel a lot of gratitude. And actually could see the word in the corner of my eye, grateful. So those are the feelings that my soul's giving to me this morning, this sense of gratitude, this sense of gratefulness for everything in my life. So once I have those feelings flowing, when I look at my life, I could be very grateful for everything, So it's almost like we have it backwards. We look at our lives and try to get the feelings, and the soul fills us up and then helps us to look at our lives. So it's just in reverse, and it's a little bit different to practice that, to ask your soul to fill you up instead of asking the world to fill you up, instead of asking people to fill you up and things to fill you up. You're asking a much greater source within you, and you're asking the essence of who you are to fill you up with really the feelings of who you are. And that is very, very different. It feels very, very different. And you might feel a little tingly, and you just start to feel better. You start to feel better. And if you notice your ego coming in saying, oh, this is stupid, or I don't want to do this, or just again, say to those thoughts, it's okay, you're right. And, I can think about these thoughts later, but let me again just push them over to the side, put them on the shelf, and just see what feelings flow in for you. So today, that's what you're going to practice, You're going to practice letting your soul fill you up with feelings instead of you filling yourself up with ego feelings and fears. So throughout the day, you will lose the connection because you're not used to practicing it. And when you start to think, you could just say, all right, today my practice is connecting to my soul because I want to live more in an intuitive state. I want to live more in my flow. And when I do that, I will be inspired. I will get ideas, and I will get messages, and my spiritual gifts will be able to be I'll be able to access them. And it's so exciting. It's like exploring a whole new world. I don't really understand sometimes when people say that they're bored, because the spiritual world and exploring and learning is endless. It just will never end, and I don't think it will ever end for me. I love going on workshops, and I love learning and reading about all the spiritual teachers that came before me and what they connected and how they saw things, and it's just fascinating to me. And so it's an amazing journey that never ends. And if you have a sense that you want to take that journey, start with your soul and your intuition. You don't have to go too much into your spiritual gifts if that kind of frightens you. A lot of people I don't want to have any spiritual gifts because I don't want to be a medium. I don't want to see dead people, or I don't want to know the future. I don't want to be scared. So you don't have to go that far. You can just practice moving out of your thoughts, moving back into your being, and feeling the fullness and the wonder of being in your being again, and then living in the flow of your intuition. And your intuition will just bring you thoughts and ideas about what's next, about what you want to do. Is it the right time to start dating? Is it the right time to stay home more? What is it that you feel you really, what are you guided to do? What do you know to do, instead of the ego trying to say what you should do, that you should be cleaning, or you should be doing laundry, or you should be exercising, or you should be eating better. That's just the ego. The intuition is a lot more fun. The spirit and the soul will guide you to do things that will bring you joy and happiness, because you're already in those feelings. So it's very easy to just go pick the next thing that feels like fun. You might go out more with your friends. You might, do, learn how to play an instrument. You might do different things. So you have to be aware that might happen, and you'll be very happy about it. It won't feel like a chore. Nothing that the soul or your intuition will bring to you ever feels like a chore, But the ego does, Anytime the ego is involved, it's more pressure. It's more for you to do. It's more for you to become. And we just don't have to live like that. We don't have to live with this sense of such high pressure on ourselves, and constant evaluations, and constantly triggering ourselves, whether it's about other people or our lives. This constant trigger of a negative internal state is so far from our soul and so far from our intuition. So we really have to work really, really hard just in the beginning to move out of it, to keep encouraging yourself if you're thinking and if you're worrying that this is not the way to go, that you want to give yourself some space for your soul to come in, and your soul feelings to come in, so that can guide you. That's a much, much better guide. It's an all-knowing guide, and it's a guide that has great, great wisdom and knows you intimately, knows all about you, and has known you from the day that you were born. So it is a guide that is really the best that you could ever listen to, and it's the best gift you could ever give yourself. So today, keep working on moving out of the ego and the trap that the ego sets for us all, and to know that there's something better for us to explore, and to become more intuitive in our lives, and not to let intuition scare you, because it won't. It's just a knowing, and it's nothing scary. It's just helpful. It's like replacing the evaluative ego with somebody that is lovingly guiding you from one step to the next, and as lovingly protecting you and encouraging you and wanting you to do your best. So that's the intuition of the soul. That's very, very different than the ego, who's always frightened. The ego is like a child and is always frightened and is always scared, and is always having us up at night worrying, having us tossing and turning, and that's the ego, and it gets the best of us a lot, and it does with me too. But I encourage myself all the time to move out of it, and when I do, the benefit is amazing. And that's why I like to share this, because it is such a vast difference from the ego mind and what the ego has to say. So there's a strong connection with our soul, spirit, and intuition, and all the good things in life. Just think back when anything really, really exciting and fun was happening to you. You probably were not thinking that much. That's the difference. Sometimes when my clients come into session and they're like, oh, I had a really great week, a lot of times they don't know why they had a great week. They're just like, I don't know, this was a really good week. I don't really know, nothing really much happened, but it was just such a great week. I really enjoyed it. And most of the time I can tell it's because they're not thinking that much. They just kind of were in their life and enjoying their life, instead of evaluating their life to the negative, which just robs you of the moment. So Go back into the flow of the soul, of the spirit. Give up that control. Let them guide you. Relax into your being. It's like enough. You don't have to control your life so much. Because within trying to control your life so much, you have all those evaluations. So let that go. Put it in a pretty box on a shelf, and just let your soul guide you. Let your soul fill you up with these beautiful feelings, so that you can just kind of rest in your intuition today. Okay? Give that a shot. Let me know how you do. Have a beautiful, beautiful, soulful day. Thanks. Bye.